episode 98. My name is Dave Hunt, and I'm joined by Michael Swick.
How is it going, Dave? We have new games to talk about and a bunch of other stuff. I'm happy. We got some news.
There's some news. So, I'm good, actually. I'm really good. I'm back on days. It didn't get extended again. I'm kind of back on days because I worked Friday night to Saturday morning and then slept in like different 5-hour increments over the weekend. Then went back to work Monday. And then today's been, today's obviously Tuesday when we record on Twitch. And then the show releases on Thursdays. So that's kind of, I'm trying to reallocate my clock. I was a little foggy at work yesterday, but I made it through. So
it's good to hear. Good to hear.
Yeah. How are things?
Work is still a trash fire, but that's nothing new. Won't get into why it's a trash fire on the podcast. Dave just had to hear that talk before we recorded. But everything's pretty good. I'm excited for like going on vacation in 2 weeks, like actually leaving Chicago.
It's September. There's games coming out. There's new games coming. There's news. Like it's getting near the holidays. Like it's hopefully the weather breaks soon. I don't know. It's like 90 degrees here today, and think it's gonna rain. But so.
We've been stuck in that weird loop where the last 3 days it's like it smells like rain. It looks like it's gonna rain, but we haven't had any rain.
Yeah.
But it's hot as hell. Yeah. But I've been indoors for the last 2 days, which has been nice. But got to go to work tomorrow. So
yeah. All right, so we are obviously Digital Days Gaming. We are a weekly podcast that post every Thursday morning, 6 a.m. Eastern Time on podcast services. If the service you listen to allows you to leave a review, please do so if you haven't. It helps out a lot. Sharing the show through retweets, sharing on Facebook, and then also just telling a friend to tell someone about the show is always helpful. And the reviews just help move up in the algorithm so other people maybe that you don't share it with can hear about us. So if you can do any of those, that would be much appreciated. As well as we live stream the show on Twitch, twitch.tv/digitaldaysgaming, typically on Tuesday nights around 5:30ish Eastern Time as well. And we are a Twitch affiliate, and it is September, so if you gift subs you get 20% off. If you've never done a subscription before on Twitch, you get 20% off your first one, as well as if you have an Amazon Prime account, you can link it with your Twitch account, and you can also subscribe that way. You get a free monthly sub. So as myself, more than Michael, just because he doesn't enjoy it as much as he used to, try to stream games more often. If you guys want to just pop in, drop a follow, say something in chat, even if it's only for a couple minutes, it's always super helpful. It also means that you can check your subscription because the Prime subscriptions don't auto renew. So many of you have subscribed to us at one time or another. But if you're willing to check that again, that is super appreciated. All right, we're going to jump into the news.
Yeah, all right. This is the thing it's funny, we were just talking about this probably 2-3 weeks ago, of just like whatever happened with the Epic and Apple trial, and we finally got a ruling. I want to say it was on Friday. We got the ruling in that, and the battle of the corporations had probably the best outcome because both corporations lost to different scale. I know that sounds a little harsh, but anytime you have billion-dollar companies fighting each other, it's just fun to watch them swing it out because nothing of importance is really happening then. But the judge ruled in favor of Apple for every count except the one big one for Epic. Though I'll explain why that isn't as big of a victory for Epic as it sounds like it could have been. But the judge basically ruled that Apple can not keep people in the dark, basically, for alternative methods to purchase items. So the judge ruled that Apple cannot stop developers from processing payments via like third-party like websites. This aspect of the ruling is going to probably end up in some weird limbo. I believe they have 90 days to allow developers to basically allow in-game or in-app purchases through third-party means, but what that exactly entails is still a little murky. But it sounds like worst case, best case scenario, apps will be able to link to websites that will then allow them to process payments, so they don't have to go through the Apple thing. So that is one of the things that Epic they said that was the thing that they were fighting for every developer, is to allow them to basically cut Apple out of the microtransaction part of their apps. For reference, Apple, through these means, made around like $19 billion. So this is going to cost Apple billions of dollars. So, Dave, any thoughts on that? Because there's so many different little aspects we're going to probably go over.
It feels like, like you said, like nobody won. I don't really, reading through some of this, and it doesn't, I don't really know if anything's going to change that much.
Financially, this could hurt Apple, depending on how many developers
I just think
route.
that they'll zag, like like everybody says that like you zig when you zag, like they'll start doing something ridiculous, like charging a publishing fee on the store, like they'll charge you a certain amount of money to publish your game on the store, and it'll probably even be where they'll start charging you something after you get so many downloads, like once you start becoming a bigger phenomenon or something.
They already charge to have their apps. What I think is going to end up coming into this is Apple is just going to have to make it even more convenient to use their payment process. Because right now, the best developers can do is make their own payment process hit their own site. And like right now, if they use like PayPal or other things, all those companies take cuts. Yeah. So basically, Apple is going to have to drop their cut lower to match some of those sites. So it's like,
or just make it obvious to the consumer that they want you to use Apple Pay, whether it's 20% less, or like just if it's something is going to cost $10 normally, and if you buy it with with this membership or your Apple ID, as an example, I don't know enough about it, but it'll be similar to like even the Game Pass stuff you get right now. Like you get 20% off any game that's involved with Game Pass, whether you purchase the game or you purchase microtransactions in the game. So like MLB The Show. Even if you play it on both platforms with the cross progression, it's cheaper to buy the microtransactions on Xbox if you're a Game Pass subscriber.
Yeah, with they're going to have to partner with developers to like give them incentive to use their payment process. They will probably put a bunch of security warnings if you do click on a link in an app that kicks you to Safari to process payment. So They'll probably have to do some sort of scare tactic to get users not to just hit their Apple Pay, which is the most convenient way to purchase something, on an iPhone. It just takes your thumbprint, and you're good to go. But this could hurt Apple a lot. Again, $19 billion is what they make through this. So even if a small percentage of developers take this route, we could be talking about hundreds of $millions or potentially billions, if anything big.
But I also think that this alleviates, like, the companies aren't realizing this as well. Like, and I don't know if Epic's had any of this problem, but like some of these other companies, like, there's a lot of features and benefits to come with Apple's program of like where if a customer has an issue with a purchase being made, like you go to Apple, you don't go to Epic, and you don't go to game XYZ. And if the consumer themselves has to go to like jump through like 10 or 15 different hoops just to either get it, we've always heard the crazy stuff of like where, oh, I let my 3-year-old, I just programmed the thumbprint on there so that he could unlock the phone anytime he wants to play, and they're not realizing that he's just buying more stuff on Minecraft or whatever, and now that for the most part you always went to Apple if you wanted to seek a refund, and they could look at your purchase transaction history. You had this whole profile, and if all these other people are doing this now, like all these other companies to circumvent Apple, like that's a security feature and a system in place that's just could be gone, and if you don't have as good of one, it could be like a nightmare. Like the thing that comes to mind was the CD Projekt Red thing, where people went to them to get a refund, like that. And they're like, whoa, they to the point where they had messed up so bad that they actually had to start figuring out a way to issue refunds to the customers, because the perception was you had to get the refund from CD Projekt Red because Sony or Xbox or Steam wasn't giving refunds for the game.
Well, and that is what Apple is going to have to do during this, is just like basically pitch the benefits to the consumer and the developer. Like, this is why you want to use our system, because you don't want to have to track all this stuff yourself. Which it means most developers are probably going to be like, I'm not going to go through the effort of trying
you have
to
hire a whole department.
And if you're an indie developer,
an entire department,
you're just going to want to use the Apple thing. But this could still cost you money if a big enough developer is like, we already have the systems in place to take care of this. I'm sure Microsoft, who's been trying to like get xCloud stuff on like the App Store itself, which I don't think that will happen ever. But if it does ever happen, this definitely Microsoft would be a big enough company that it'd be like, yeah, we'll process our own payments because we have the departments. Epic, so that was the only count Epic won. So Epic was still found in Iran for inserting their own payment options and basically violating the terms of service, which is the thing that we kind of expected this whole thing to be thrown out over.
Right.
Basically, the judge was like, you signed a contract with Apple, you knowingly broke it, and based on the millions of dollars you made during the time it was broken, you have to pay Apple their 30%. So they're liable for somewhere for just a couple millions of dollars, just because Apple didn't allow it for a super long time to be available.
Yeah, which is money they weren't going to have anyways if they were playing nice with Apple, so that's not a big deal.
Yeah, the Epic will have to pay the legal fees, I believe, or a good chunk of the legal fees for Apple, so a couple more millions of dollars. But the big thing is the judge basically was like, yeah, Apple has the right to ban you from ever being on their store. So they're not going to come back unless some deal is struck between Epic and Apple. Basically, the judge is like, yeah, it's the same thing we've been saying for a while. It's your playground.
Yeah.
It's your house. You set the rules. You broke their rules. They have every right to kick you out. So
yeah, absolutely.
And for reference, Epic made like $600 million in the first 2 years Fortnite was on iOS. So this is potential money that they're never going to be able to get back into again, or that ecosystem.
Like, but I can't go to work, and like I'm supposed to, like, disclosure, I wear like a blue apron to work. I can't go to work and just start deciding to wear a yellow apron and be like, well, like, what are you getting? Like, and then they fire me or say that I can't come to work anymore, and then I sue them. Like you just, like, it doesn't work that way.
And that's basically what the judge was saying, is just like, yeah, you broke the rules knowingly. And basically the judge was just saying the Apple isn't a monopoly, but they did have anti-competitive things that were which have now 90 days to be corrected, which is allowing developers to allow different payment options available to them. But yeah, that was it. Epic didn't really celebrate this ruling, even though before they said the number one priority was, opening a door for other developers. And then Apple really hasn't come out, unless something's changed in the last day or so, saying that they were going to, fight this at all. I think Apple's willing to deal with whatever consequences happen, and just for the reasons we stated, where it's going to be difficult for a lot of developers and app makers to set up their own payment processes. And do they work with PayPal and deal with PayPal's cut? Do they deal with, I think Slice is another one. Do they just deal with their cut? So we'll see what happens in the next 90 days. If we just see a flood of apps that have links to random websites.
That scares people off too, though. Mm-hmm. Like when they're playing, whether if I'm playing 2 or 3 different games, like if I'm playing Call of Duty Mobile, and then I have to go to like an Activision store directly, or if I'm playing a Fortnite and I have to go to an Epic store directly, and I have to put all my information in multiple times, and like that kind of annoys people, and they like the all-in-one package.
Yeah, Apple's made it really easy to where when you're using like any app on your phone, you just do the fingerprint, and then it just charges your card you have on file, and you don't have to worry about it because it's being processed through Apple. If something goes wrong, you talk to Apple first before you talk to anyone else. But yeah, that is the end of this saga for now. I know Epic is in a lawsuit with Google over the same thing. I will imagine this would go the same way. And
I would think if I'm Epic at this point in time with this, based on this ruling, I run away from this other ruling. You pay the legal fees of Google, and just kind of walk away because you know what's going to happen. Unless it really is important to allow third-party things. If they stick to their word that all they care about is opening a door for other developers. Yeah, but you don't want to lose twice.
But that's when we'll see.
And who's ever the judge on if this other Google versus Epic is in court, obviously, or in litigation, like they're going to reference this other ruling. They always reference similar rulings.
Yeah, they have to.
They're going to look at. Yeah. So like this is not looking good for. This is just like if somebody's wants to make a PlayStation exclusive game and says, oh, we want to release it exclusively on your platform, you normally take 30%, but we're a big independent company and we only think you should take 20%. And Sony's like, well, no. And and they're like, well, we're going to sue you. Like, okay, our rules are our rules. We treat everybody the same.
Yeah. Everything will come to, like, I think we'll get the Google ruling very soon, or that just might never take off. Because I don't see them wanting to take a loss twice.
Right.
The next story happened a little bit before the PlayStation Showcase that we'll talk about later. The Firesprite studio has been purchased by PlayStation. So this is now the 15th studio that PlayStation owns. Firesprite are known for a couple different games. Playroom VR, Run Sackboy Run, and more recently Persistence and Persistence VR. The studio is in Liverpool and has staff from the old PlayStation Liverpool studio, which were known for the later Wipeout games, I believe. So another acquisition by PlayStation, and kind of the acquisition that we expect from PlayStation in terms of like the money they're playing with, and PlayStation becoming a very European company.
Mm-hmm. Isn't this like the 4th or 5th studio acquisition that Sony's done in the last 2 years? I mean, like 3 years, like Insomniac, Housemarque, Firesprite, the other one, Nether, I'm saying the name wrong, but Nixies. So that's like 4 off the top of my head. And people like, when Microsoft purchased Bethesda, they got 7 studios. So like they're almost close now. Like, in terms of it, especially again when Sony comes out and publicly says we're not in an arms race to buy studios. Like, we kind of are.
Yeah, except they're just playing with a different wallet, basically. They're basically leveraging the fact that like Sony, all the Sony heads now are European based. Herman Hulst, Jim Ryan. So they're picking up other European studios, and I'm assuming they're probably costing less than what they paid for Insomniac, which I think they paid $250 million for Insomniac. So they're picking up all these studios, and they probably haven't hit $1 billion yet. So they're using their money very wisely.
No, yeah. I'm just comparing numbers and numbers. That's all. Not like obviously. When the Bethesda acquisition happened, like there's huge IPs that came with that too. Like that's where a lot of the money was. It was in the IP and the publishing arm. These other studios are probably fantastic studios, and they're going to allow whatever direction Sony is or isn't trying to take their market. Because like if we're led to believe that they're like focusing on blockbusters, they're not acquiring studios that can produce blockbusters.
Yeah, well, I think we're gonna get to the point where Sony, like, this makes sense. This is a company that has a Firesprite has VR experience, and VR 2's coming out, so they're probably like, let's just get them and work on the next big VR game. Right. And Sony has a track record of building studios up, so I think they have enough confidence in their ability to like buy a smaller studio without an IP. Yeah,
that takes time to build the studios too. It takes multiple years, obviously.
They do have
an amazing track record of doing it. But
they have a lot of dead IP though, in terms of just like IP they can pull from and immediately get people responding to them. Though I will say it does feel like they have a bunch of studios that are just getting started on developing games, as far as we know. In terms of all their big hitters have just finished up, their games in the last year or two. So we're going to get an avalanche of Sony games, but it's probably going to be like 3-4 years out before we start seeing like...
Yeah, like right in the cruise, like I guess the cruise mode for PS5 when it's a 3 to 5 year old console, readily available, probably a smaller version or a different version, either a smaller version or a souped up version of it out by then as well. So... Well, it's super, super interesting just to see, the directions that they're going, that in terms of trying to build their library out and realizing that owning is like, and they're doing both, but owning is better than buying exclusives, although they are, reaching partnerships with multiple companies on exclusives. It's just interesting to see in terms of the exclusives that we've heard about that are coming, or the studio deals, or for even unnamed games that they've done studio deals with, and that as well as now purchasing studios. Like, it's fascinating to see both sides of it.
Yeah, I feel like all those deals they're making with third parties and their acquisitions go hand in hand. You buy the third party deals to hold you over until your newly acquired studios can get up and running.
Yeah, but to your point though, these deals are coming hand in hand, month after month. Mm-hmm. Like we're hearing about the Montreal studio from the former Google Stadia lady, and then the Sometimes Always Monsters exclusive deal.
Yeah.
Like these are games that aren't named at the same time when you're purchasing these studios. Like we know that Housemarque is either working on something post Resogun or a new IP. But they've also just recently been purchased. And then, like if the rumors are to be believed about Blue Point, we haven't heard what they're working on. So there's a lot of unknown and a lot of like early development of things.
Well, that's why I think we're seeing stuff like Forspoken getting an exclusivity deal that's coming out next year. Why we're getting that Project Eve game, and like Kenna is exclusive launch, is they have to make those deals now while their studios reload, and then come 2023 it's going to be a hell of a run from the PlayStation studios.
It's going to be the same from Microsoft though, because once all their other acquisitions get rolling too,
and it's going to be amazing for games just to see. But basically both companies being able to fire on all cylinders.
Yeah, it's kind of what you were talking about last week. Like holiday 2023 is setting up to be like a pinnacle of gaming.
Mm-hmm, yeah, and we're going to see it from both PlayStation and Xbox, and Nintendo's just going to continue to do what they do, just casually dropping in Game of the Year, contenders.
Every 3 years they show up.
Yeah, every 3 years they show up.
They're like that college powerhouse that just like has a great senior class, and then they just reload, and then by the time they're juniors or seniors, they're great again, and it's like they like, where did they come from? Like, oh, it's been 4 years. Oh, now they have this, and like
no, but they're basically like Tom Brady, to where they're like, no, Mario's too old to have a Game of the Year contender. No one gives a shit about Mario. Odyssey comes out, Game of the Year.
Then they put his hat on backwards and change his overalls, and
yeah, people are like, is the Zelda game really going to hold up? Or is Zelda really a franchise? And then Breath of the Wild comes out and is like industry changing type game. Like Nintendo will just casually just release their first party stuff and do that. Why Xbox and PlayStation are just having this all out guns war, just going for it, which is going to be exciting to see. I'm happy with this studio acquisition, even though it's not known what they'll do, but with their last couple acquisitions, it feels like, and their third-party deals, we might be going back to that time where Sony were making smaller experiences or some experimental stuff along with their big deals. I don't think, you're hiring this studio and you're going to be like, yeah, they're going to be the next Naughty Dog. You acquire this studio because they're like, they might have a cool idea we can expand upon.
Yeah.
But especially like the VR studios with VR2. We know we're not going to get a Naughty Dog-like experience in VR anytime soon. So an acquisition like this feels pretty nice in terms of making smaller games that are interesting, whatever scale that might be. Next story. This one is a little sad, but it kind of makes sense how it all went down. Also PlayStation related. This is a very PlayStation-focused show.
The majority of our listener base should be pleased.
Yeah. Little Big Planet server issues have finally concluded, but they had to make some very drastic action. For several months, I think back in February, March, all the Little Big Planet servers went out. Mm-hmm. And Media Molecule kept saying that they were trying to bring them back. They couldn't figure it out. Eurogamer actually found out it was actually due to like maybe one specific fan. They kept saying fan, but this guy's just an asshole. But they marked it down to basically some fans or a single person were attacking the Little Big Planet servers due to the franchise being ignored, which is whatever. It's like we saw this with Titanfall like a month or two ago, where you had like supposed fans attacking Titanfall because it was being ignored. So Media Molecule had the servers off for several months now. Monday they had to announce that Little Big Planet 3 on PS4 is back up, and it will stay up as far as they're aware. But in order to do this, they had to shut down Little Big Planet 1, 2, and 3 on PS3, and Little Big Planet on Vita. The silver lining is all the uploaded content from the PS3 games is still playable on the PS4. But I'm guessing the PS3s is too vulnerable that they just had to shut it off.
How old is Little Big Planet 1?
2007?
Yeah, you like the server should have been turned off.
Yeah, it makes sense, and it was just a vulnerability at this point. That's where most likely the hackers were attacking from.
Yeah.
2008, Little Big Planet came out. So they just had to basically cut off the weak point, and it sucks that those 3 games, or those 4 games...
Does it, though?
Anytime a game loses feature, I'm sure there's still someone who's playing Little Big Planet on the PS3. The only good thing is that all the content was able to be saved, as long as it was uploaded. Unless there was someone actually working on a level on the PS3 who just can't do that now, that sucks for that.
But it sounds like they haven't been able to do it for months.
They've been just waiting. They've had their level created, waiting to hit the upload button. But yeah, no, it's kind of crazy that they couldn't find like a proper resolution to keep those servers alive, but I'm sure the cost effectiveness of fixing those old servers.
Well, the cost effectiveness of fixing the old servers, the cost effectiveness of running the old servers, and then the cost effectiveness is figuring out what the hell to do with them. How much manpower did they spend to figure this out?
And then at a certain point they're like, okay, we can fix the PS4 servers. Because that makes sense to do, because people are probably still playing it on a PS4. And the only way to fix this is to just cut off all other access points for this. It sucks, but at least levels are saved. It's not like they're losing Little Big Planet 1 levels from this. It's all, if it was uploaded before the servers went down, you're fine.
Yeah.
I know your old game is old, and you're probably surprised they're still running.
Yeah.
Yeah. It sucks the Vita had to go, because I believe the Vita was its own closed ecosystem, but...
Yeah, but again, the Vita had actually, in Vita's case, I believe it actually had its own unique level building system, like utilizing the touch controls and stuff like that, so that had a different dynamic to it, and the Vita is younger than the PS3, but older than the PS4, and I'm a believer in one gen back.
Yeah.
So...
Well, it must have just been one of those things where they looked at the Vita and they're like, okay, the Vita's still vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just kill it. Just to avoid any future headaches. Even though it's its own closed ecosystem, it probably still connected to the grand Little Big Planet, database hub in some ways. And they just were having to cut ties with that as well. But it lives on PS4 for now. All right. Let's get into the big one. The PlayStation Showcase happened Thursday. We were going to record our own special episodes, but schedule-wise just never lined up. But if we did that...
On the surface, there's some cool things in here, but not enough for a whole show.
No, yeah, it would have been probably a little less time than the actual showcase was, which I think the showcase was roughly, 44 minutes? 40 minutes?
The showcase was 40 minutes, yeah. 40. The interviews they did afterwards were kind of interesting, but that was longer.
All right. Because I'm selfish, just put the highlights in our notes that I thought were interesting. Dave might have something different, but I'm pretty sure we nailed what Dave would be interested in, or at least I did. The first one, which is, we knew this was coming, but I didn't know it was going to be PS5 exclusive, PS5 PC. Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake is coming to PS5 and PC. Apparently Sony helped fund this with Aspire, which is why it's going to be a console launch exclusive. The game was originally developed by BioWare and I think published by EA, but this is being done through Aspyr, Lucas Games, and Sony. So this is
It's a timed console exclusive, my understanding, right?
Yes, yeah, a timed exclusive. They were actually very clear with that, which is nice for once to get some clarity.
Usually this is like I think my wife asked me, like, usually this is a 12 to 18 month kind of thing. Usually 12, a year, right?
Yeah, it's usually about a year. So this deal sounds very similar to like how Xbox funded the Tomb Raider games, where this game might not have been made unless Sony was willing to upfront some money. Right,
but different than the Street Fighter V deal, which essentially was a console exclusive for its.
Correct.
It still is.
Yeah. So this is from Aspyr Games, which is kind of crazy. I mean, they had nothing to do with the original Knights of the Old Republic, but they just, I guess, had the pitch for Lucas, and they're going to work on it. No word on how much of a remake we're getting, whether they're going to try and follow everything straightforward or if they're going to deviate from any paths. But a lot of people are excited about this. I mean, this was originally, I think, just on the Xbox and PC, so it's kind of interesting that Sony just, like, swooped in on this and just, I guess, had the money for it or had the pitch. And it probably just shows you Sony's relationship with Disney is really good right now. And we'll talk about that in a couple more minutes. But Sony has the pitch to.
I'm sure that a lot of the stuff that we're going to talk about, I'm sure a lot of this ties into some structural contract stuff with Spider-Man.
Oh God, yeah, it feels
in the MCU, like it has to.
Yeah,
this is something we're going to hear about like in 20 years, like in a book, like another, like something like the Disney CEO resigns or something like that, or the Marvel CEO resigns, and then he does a tell-all book or something.
And we usually get those books from the movie industry side of things, so we'll probably find something out in several years. The next thing, Project Eve from Shift Up Studios is like a third-person action game. I thought this is a Bayonetta game when they were first showing it for a while. It looks really cool. I don't know if this is something you would be super into, but it at least looked interesting.
Yeah, it looked. What I was actually most impressed about was it looked very smooth in terms of like large environments and the way the character movement was with the monsters and stuff. It looked very, very smooth. It looked cool. I don't think it's something that I would probably play without seeing a little bit more about it. But at the same time, like the next game you're going to talk about, I kind of was like not interested in, and now I'm like super interested in. So
yeah, let's talk about it. Forspoken. This is from Square Enix, I believe. Before everything we'd seen about it, it seemed like it was going to be a straightforward like fantasy RPG from Square, and it turns out that the main character is actually from like our time, kind of like modern time, and gets sucked into this fantasy world. Outside of the dialogue sounding like it wasn't actually coming from the game, this looks super interesting.
And then Amy Hennig's writing it.
Oh, she is.
Which is it's Amy Hennig and Gary Whitta together are writers on it. Amy Hennig did a lot of the writing on Uncharted, or all of the writing on Uncharted. And so, like, in terms of like that's a pretty high bar of storytelling for me, as well as like the little twist of how this character is going to work, is just super interesting to me. So, like, the game, it looks a lot better, and I can't wait to see more from it. I do want to see. We won't recently in the near future, but I do want to see like how the HUDs and stuff like that work, like how the game runs. But
yeah, I this was one of those games I was kind of interested in, and then when I saw the twist that was revealed, I became even more interested in this game. And it is coming spring 2022. Someone points out in the chat that it's like a 2-year exclusive for PS5. So this could be a big one for PlayStation, especially spring 2022 seems ridiculous right now. So maybe this one will get like dropped back. We have a bunch of games coming out in like February, March of next year, and I don't think all of them are going to make it February and March of next year. But this looks phenomenal. I was really excited after seeing this trailer. A little bit after that, we got a new Ghostwire Tokyo trailer.
Did not realize it was Ghostwire when I was watching at the beginning.
There's a tonal difference, I feel like, in those early trailers than we got in here. This is the opposite of what Forspoken did for me, where I was like kind of like, I'm not really interested in Forspoken, saw the trailer, and now I'm super hyped. Ghostwire, I was interested in, latest trailer kind of dampened my excitement just a little bit. It still looks cool, but I don't know. Some of the character design stuff or just how the gameplay looked didn't leave the best impression on me.
It looks completely different than we saw this at the Bethesda press conference that we went to, right?
Yeah. That's when they.
Am I crazy to think that it was more of like an urban Tokyo environment with it looked like it had a little bit more less mage to it, I guess.
No, that was all there, okay. But the presentation felt better. I don't know, the way they revealed all the monsters in this trailer, or all the the creatures, I didn't really do much for me, and I don't know. I can't quite pin down what this game didn't do for me from this trailer, and I just kind of left kind of unimpressed and less excited about it for some reason. I don't know why exactly that happened, but it did. After that, there was like a GTA 5 thing, the Alan Wake thing happened, but we talked about that last week. Uncharted 4 and Lost Legacy are coming to PS5 and PC next year. Iron Galaxy is handling the PC port instead of Nixie's. Nixie's is probably working on something else after the Sony acquisition. But Uncharted 4 and Lost Legacy on PS5, are you considering replaying these? I
never finished Lost Legacy.
Okay.
But Uncharted 4, in terms of from the story aspect of it, for me, did exactly what I wanted it to do. It put a nice little bow on a great box, and I don't have any tangible. I've tried to go back and play some previous Uncharted's before, just for fun, and I can't do it. So I don't think that this would make me or entice me to do it.
Yeah, I can return to Uncharted 2. I do it frequently, but I have had no desire, even though I loved Uncharted 4, it is definitely one of the best in the series, probably my second favorite Uncharted game. I haven't had any desire to go back to Uncharted 4 since completing it. And Lost Legacy I didn't complete until earlier this year. But I would be curious to see how this goes on PC. Every time PlayStation releases a game on PC, they get better and better at doing that. So I'd want to see what Uncharted 4 on PC or Lost Legacy on PC will look like. More than I am on PS5, because so far all the PS5 remasters from PS4 games have been pretty much just, here's a consistent frame rate and a better resolution. So nothing groundbreaking happening there.
Mm-hmm.
After that,
it's super interesting that it's coming to PC. It's just and together. I would be shocked if the Uncharted collection isn't coming eventually as well.
You would hope so, but they might not. Gran Turismo is coming to PS4 and PS5 on March 4th.
Okay, until it gets delayed again. So
yeah, no, I just put it in there because I knew you would say that. But yeah, Gran Turismo. The only thing that gives me confidence is that it actually has a day. So if it does get delayed, I don't see it being a gigantic delay.
No, it'll be like April or May.
Yeah.
So.
If they just said March 2022, it's like, no, that shit's coming out in June. But because they actually put a day, an actual day on it with a number.
In chat, the game looks great. Yeah, racing games always look great. They're a showcase for it. But this game should have been out at launch. I'm sorry.
Yeah. After that, I feel like the show got really, really good with the last three trailers. Insomniac Games is making a fucking Wolverine game. Holy shit.
Yeah, there's been more information that's came out since then, but this game is farther off than people are thinking, and I don't know why people are thinking that. And the more that they've talked about it, the more I'm led to believe it's 2024.
I think it is 2024.
Yeah,
they said it's early in development.
Yeah. They don't have a voice actor for Wolverine, which is not at the end of the world, but that's a very important factor for it. And it's also going to be a very mature toned game, and it's going to be large in scale. So the first question that came up with a couple of my friends as like that we were talking about, and I was always this. I'm always been on this side, and I kind of already said it when I did it. But Spider-Man 2 is coming before this.
Yeah, so. But this is like. I don't mind that it's a 2024 game because we're getting Spider-Man 2 in 2023. And I want it to be a full game. It's crazy that they had to like tell people it's going to be a full game because I guess Miles Morales has set like a standard for like how you can have a length for a game. But I'm so excited, and it is the creative director and game director from Miles Morales. So it's not like a new...
Which initially led people to believe it'd be a Miles like experience, and they've come out and said no. Like
and the mature tone is exciting. I hope it's... You have to do it rated M. Like the amount of violence that a Wolverine game would be. It has to be. Just
the way he's got metal that comes out of his hands. Like it has to be. It's super cool, and like you said, like the relationship that Sony through Insomniac is having with Disney and Marvel is fascinating. For and just what in general what Marvel is allowing companies to do with some of their properties is super cool. Whether you like or didn't like Avengers, like it's still a thing, and it's cool that it's a thing.
Guardians was featured in this. So
correct. And even like the What If franchise, the stretching that they're allowing them to do with some of the stuff. Some of it's good, some of it's not, some of it's great, some of it's not. But it's there, and it's like we had this void for so long. As an example with Star Wars, where there was just is either wasn't existent or it was terrible. There was never any good. So the fact that there's a good mix of this is awesome, and it's just interesting. I love that it's Insomniac, but I have my concerns that it's Insomniac as well.
Insomniac they have so many games already out on the PS5. They have 3, and now they're going to have 2 more within the next 2 to 3 years. I kind of hit the point where I have full faith in Insomniac. I don't think they're being stretched too thin just because... Again,
I'm not worried about it being stretched too thin. Like I'm more worried about like what the hell are these other studios doing? That's where this studio can just do all this stuff. Yeah. So like, all right, Michael. Like, what is Naughty Dog doing right now?
So your concern isn't with Insomniac because you said that initially your concern was with Insomniac. Your concern is with the Sony studios.
I guess I worded it wrong. I am. There is a small bit of concern on like is Insomniac going to try to turn into Platinum Games, where Platinum Games had a bar really high for a long time, and then they tried to do too much. That's always like kind of like in my mind. But my concern now is like we've had another showcase. Okay, all right. So we're gonna play a little game. Michael, what is Sony Bend doing?
We don't know.
Okay.
We have Jason Schreier story.
The last thing they did was Days Gone.
Yeah.
What is Naughty Dog doing? Doing
the Last of Us multiplayer that they announced through a freaking job listing.
What game is Naughty Dog working on?
A multiplayer game set in the Last of Us universe
now,
is all we know.
What game is Insomniac working on?
Wolverine and Spider-Man.
Right. So like that, what is like I know that they just did the director's cut, but like what is Sucker Punch doing? Like you're gonna announce a Wolverine game. Kudos, great job, awesome. Okay, why can't you announce in a brief trailer what Sucker Punch is doing? Why couldn't you put a Last of Us multiplayer logo up on this showcase? Why couldn't you have hinted at what Sony Bend is doing? On top of it, Sony Bend has only done one thing since I've been covering video games.
Yeah. So what I think the difference with Insomniac might be is kind of what we see in the movie industry, but it's slightly different. Is like sometimes like Marvel when they're like, hey, here's the next 10 years of films. And then they pick Marvel Untitled November 5th. Marvel Untitled April 2nd.
Yeah.
I think right now because Disney is in such a... If you pitch it and have the means, you can make it. I think Insomniac is literally with Wolverine being like, we call Wolverine. Like, do not include Wolverine in your other games because no one's going to give a shit about your Wolverine because we're making Wolverine.
But we know that Ubisoft Massive Studios working on an an Avatar game. Now it's been titled. We know that Ubisoft is making a Star Wars game. Yeah. We know that somebody, I can't even think who they are right now, Bethesda is making an Indiana Jones game. Machine Head, yeah. So like, and we kind of have an idea what's going on. We essentially, like we just talked about, we almost know what almost every Microsoft studio is doing.
Yeah, but with PlayStation and like Naughty Dog, Sucker Punch, they're keeping it to the chest. And maybe then, Insomniac changes that to where like they have to announce what they're working on ahead of time.
And then they're being cheeky with the God of War stuff, God of War Ragnarok, saying Cory Barlog's not directing on it, which leads most people to believe, rightfully so, that there's something else that he's doing.
Which he is. They pretty much have come out like, he's working on something else.
So they're being like super cheeky with this stuff versus just saying, like, I guess this is the part where I almost feel like if Phil Spencer was running PlayStation, he'd be like, oh yeah, Cory's working on his own cool thing. We'll tell you about it later. That's exactly how you'd say it.
Yeah.
And so you would know that, or he'd be like, oh yeah, they're, same thing. Like Naughty Dog's working on this really cool multiplayer thing, but we're just not ready to talk about it yet.
Well, the Naughty Dog one, they've kind of just like the postings have been pretty.
Not Sony hasn't. Like I'm saying, that's what like
because Jim Ryan's terrible at that shit. He'd probably say too much for the wrong thing, and then they'll have to apologize for it 2 years later.
Or Herman Hulst, or anybody. That's the thing. That's just it's just really interesting and really weird to me of like, we know that Media Molecule's messing with dreams, but how long until somebody like puts their damn fist on the table and says, all right, enough playing with the toy, go make a game.
So I think it's just like the confidence level or the pipeline that Insomniac has built where they are comfortable enough to being like, yeah, they're making a Wolverine game, it'll be out in 2 years. But
you have that pedigree with Naughty Dog. Years ago, all you did was put Uncharted 4 logo on the screen.
Yeah, but Naughty Dog is also known for like really bad crunch and all this other stuff that kind of goes with their games to where they probably just aren't comfortable announcing shit too early for Naughty Dog at this point. While Insomniac, coming out of both Spider-Man games, are like, yeah, we never crunch. No, people like working here. As opposed to the other studios where people are like, this is one of the worst experiences, but my favorite experience at the same time. But like, I love like Insomniac's like confidence and PlayStation's confidence in them to being like, yeah, announce the Wolverine game now. You don't have anything to show for it? Yeah, just put up a trailer. It's cool. We'll know you'll have it done in 2 years.
Put up a trailer, which is almost a carbon copy of his reveal in a movie.
Which is perfect for this, because then it gives you a tone.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, that I don't really think that was that hard. So, like, I mean, I don't know enough about that kind of stuff, but I don't think that was terribly hard to produce. That's just my opinion. So,
and also, again, I think it really helps them that they have Spider-Man, and Spider-Man always has to be in New York. So, like, the world building they have to do for Spider-Man was already done in the first game. So then all they have to worry about is adding some different features and adding a new story. They basically, with Spider-Man, have a sports title in terms of just like, they just have to add extra features to the Spider-Man world, and that's all fans would want, as opposed to if they had something else. It's why like Rocksteady were able to produce 3 Batman games relatively fast.
You had Gotham, and
then once they were done with that, they had no idea what to do.
So Spider-Man 2 coming in 2023 shows Peter Parker, the next bullet point in your story, shows Peter Parker, Miles Morales, and confirms Venom. PS5 exclusive confirmed. So this is what we were talking about, like what could they do? I didn't even really think about Venom, just because I almost felt like that was kind of like too easy. But it looks like it's probably going to work. And then my mind immediately started wondering, like, they could go inside these buildings and do some really cool stuff. With
which
Venom,
they dabbled just a little bit in the previous game. Or, like, Miles, you were indoors way more than you were in other games. Or the other Spider-Man game. So, yeah, there's so much they can do with Venom. He looks cool. He sounds pretty damn awesome. They confirmed that, Miles and Peter are both going to be in the game as opposed to one of them, like, fucking off for no reason. Which I was worried they were going to do, to where we weren't going to get them in the same game for a while or for too long. This looked amazing. It was a, simple trailer, but that's all you need for this at this point, and it's coming out in 2023. I do like they confirmed it's PS5 exclusive, as in there is no PS4 version of this game. Same thing with Wolverine, which makes sense because if they were still doing PS4, PS5 games in 2023 and 2024, there'd be something super wrong with how things are going.
All right, so question and prediction for you now. Will Spider-Man 2 have co-op?
No, I think it's going to be a single-player game. You're going to be switching between them. I don't think they mess with the Spider-Man formula enough to
I think it will have co-op. I think it'll have it that you can go back and forth. You can switch that. I think you'll be able to switch to characters on demand. I think Miles and Spider-Man or Miles and Peter will be in the same room at the same time. But you can switch AI driven, or you can have somebody with you.
Oh no! So I think you'll be switching between them, but I don't think there'll be a second player option. I think this is still going to be built around.
I think they'll be in the rooms at the same time.
Like, no, they'll be in the rooms at the same time, but I don't think player 2, as in like.
Nah, I do. So
you think there'll be two people controlling?
Yes.
One controlling Miles. One. Yeah, I don't see that happening. If it does, that'll be cool. I just don't know how that would exactly work with, having two Spider-Men swinging around at the same time that two different human beings are controlling. I feel like
next gen only, bro.
No, I doubt that.
If you can make Ratchet pull through rifts, you can have Miles and Spider-Man.
No, I think that would be just too hard to have two characters streaming through the world at the same time. Having humans just do stupid shit, do you think Sony is building out a video game universe? Like, do you think that Wolverine and Spider-Man can be connected or will be?
No.
Do you think they can't do it with just Spider-Man and Wolverine?
I think they can do it, but I just don't think they will.
Yeah. I think there will be definitely Easter eggs. I would love if the post-credit scene for Spider-Man 2 is something related to Wolverine. Do you think?
Yeah, but I mean, they've kind of done that aspect of it, of teasing Miles. They teased Miles at the beginning of the Spider-Man reveal.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, there's things that I guess. Do I think that they're going to be interconnected? Sure. Do I think that we're ever going to see them physically connect? No. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I can see that, but I can totally see maybe Peter Parker popping up or something, or you hear about some shit that Wolverine's doing. I don't think you ever get a crossover game, but I can see them like hinting to each other's existence, if anything. Unless Sony gets a third Marvel game, then I think that's what Sony would be building to. But I don't know. This could be a test run. We could end up seeing Sony making another deal for another exclusive Marvel game, and then at that point I think they would be building a universe. All right. The last thing that was there is the God of War Ragnarok trailer. This looked great, though it does seem like you're going back to a lot of areas that you were in the first game, at least from what I saw, which I don't have a problem with as long as it continues the story.
I think that the overworld is going to be the same, but I think you're definitely going to go to different realms.
Like you will, but you are going to see old places that you visited as well.
Well, yeah, I think it's... You can't be... we can't be mad at or praise Miles Morales for what they did and be mad if God of War does it. I mean, this is... And we're hearing that this is the end of... Essentially, this is the end of this... what's the word that I'm trying to think of?
Saga?
Norris.
Okay.
The Norris saga. So we thought that this might be like another trilogy, but it sounds like it just might be a sequel. So in terms of there's going to be other realms you're going to go to, and I think it'd be weird if you go and I think it'd be worse if you go and build another realm teleporter. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. It was just one of those things where I don't know. I'm not one of those people that were mad that the boat animation's the same. But
yeah, that was hilarious.
The clips that they showed in the trailer, it's like, how many different ways can he row a boat? But a lot of the clips I saw in the trailer...
Okay, brief spoilers for God of War if you haven't played it. They haven't even barely touched on the world serpent at all.
Yeah, I hope they expand upon that aspect. I'm just saying
that center focal point of that God of War overview world was a huge focal point, and there is still stuff in that game I didn't go check out, and there was other realms that I think were shown that you couldn't even go to.
Yeah, I don't know. I think the only thing that kind of made me not super excited about this, like I was for Wolverine, is there were too many instances where I'm like, that looks way too familiar, to where I was hoping to see something big. But I guess that's what the character reveals were supposed to be for, but my North's mythology knowledge isn't great. So some of the reveals didn't really do anything for me. But the game still looks great, and I'm glad to see this continue, obviously, because I love the first one, or whatever you want to call it. But 2018's God of War, I loved it. So I want to see where the story unfolds. And
no,
luckily,
I'm totally fine with whatever overworld system that they use to get you from point A to point B. If it's the same, like it's a continuation of that story. Like for them to go to a completely different location would be weird.
Oh no! I don't expect them to. I don't know. It's just weird. I just thought too many things were reminiscent of the first game. For a reveal trailer for whatever reason. I know it contradicts what I say about Spider-Man, but I was just
I think that they were trying to pull on people, like trying to help people remember, because it's going to be 4 or 5 years. That's a long time. This isn't 2 years out. This is like God of War came out, Spider-Man came out, Miles came out, and then God of War 2 is coming out. So like in terms of the windows and the brackets of time, I think that they need to refresh the player. A little bit, and that's where you're seeing some of this stuff from. I'm just super interested in seeing the rest of Atreus and Kratos' story. Like that's, and if it's in the same world, like so be it. Like that, I don't care. Yeah.
It was just something about like some of the backgrounds of just like that looks like too familiar. But they might be holding stuff back.
If we go to the same realms and they look the same and we don't go to different parts of those realms,
that's what
I'll be disappointed
is from that trailer.
Yeah. But I think if we're going to new realms, or if we do revisit another realm, then like that'll be fine. Like I'm sorry, but when you visited the underworld in God of War, every single one, it wasn't that different.
Yeah. And maybe that's just my old God of War.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, but
yeah.
Did you feel like God of War 3 was worse because you'd already been to the underworld 2 other times?
No, by God of War 3, at least there was enough of a graphics overhaul. But from like 1 to 2, I was just like, I'm fucking tired of this stuff. But like 3 had a visual overhaul that was significant.
Yeah, the hot topic on Twitter was because the boat animation's the same, but I don't really know how many you want them to have him jump in a boat instead of hop in a boat now. Like, why are you going to redo?
Yeah, that was
like,
basically
the puddle game. Why are you going to redo what always already worked?
Yeah, there's only so many ways to row a boat. Like to complain about the animation.
Are people going to be mad that because Venom swings too similarly to Parker?
Yeah. Well, that would be disappointing because Miles and Peter completely different swings. But yeah, this is coming out in 2022, PS4, PS5, and as you mentioned earlier, new director.
Yeah.
But someone who's been with every director of like every God of War game, which I thought was like a cool aspect because some people were freaking out that it's not Cory Barlog, it's Eric Williams, and
game directors change way more than people realize.
Oh, for sure. I feel like it's only within the last like 5 to 10 years that people know game director names.
And if you think that Barlog doesn't have his hands on this, you're crazy.
Yeah, his office isn't too far from the other person's office.
Yeah, he's in the conference room for all of these meetings, or he's got the Zoom on with his camera off for everything.
Yeah. And the guy Eric Williams, I believe, is the name. I'm like double checking that. He has worked on every God of War game, under every director that they've had.
They're teasing giants in this game. There's some cool stuff, man. There's some really cool stuff.
But that was the PlayStation Showcase. What did you think overall of the showcase?
It was fine. The Wolverine thing was the biggest surprise. Everything else was already known. Like I mentioned, I'm disappointed that I don't know what some of these other studios are working on, or even it's being hinted at. It also just personally felt like a really extended state of play with Jim Ryan talking at the beginning.
Yeah. Yeah. I liked the show. It was pretty good. I think the Wolverine thing, if the Wolverine thing didn't exist, I think I'd probably be disappointed from the show. But I'm enough of a Marvel fanboy that like the Wolverine thing is all I needed to be like, this was a great show, even if it was a short teaser.
The conversation that Sid Schumann had with Cory Barlog and Eric Williams should have been in the show.
Yeah, like I didn't
if you,
even really watch that
if
stuff.
you go back, if you're somebody that wasn't able to catch the PlayStation Showcase live and you go to YouTube to find the replay, you're not seeing that interview. You're not seeing the interview for Gran Turismo. That's the stuff that people really like. Like that's the
Though Xbox was criticized hard by fans over their interview stuff. That
there's a balance though.
Yeah.
Like there's a balance. Like you could have had almost like a 3-minute conversation with the Insomniac director. You could have put I can't even think of his name. The head of Insomniac, Samuelson, Jamie something. I'm sorry, his name is escaping me completely. But you could have had him just like, hey, you just saw like a reveal trailer for Marvel Wolverine. It's going to be, he could have just squashed anybody's questions. Like, it's being made by the team that did Miles Morales, but they're gonna, it's gonna be large in scale and it's gonna have a mature tone to it. Versus, again, we're seeing stuff come out days after this event when you can control the narrative.
Yeah. Yeah, they would have been nice if they included that.
I'm sorry, the release date for Gran Turismo wasn't revealed, unless I missed it during the showcase, wasn't revealed until after the showcase in that interview. It wasn't shown when they showed GT.
I think it was, I want to say. Yeah, I want to say it was. I would have to look at the trailer again, but I'm pretty sure the trailer shows March 4th.
Okay, then I might have missed it. So.
Yeah, I kind of do the thing when they show racing games, I kind of look at my phone.
Let me go get it. Let me go fill my water up.
It's gonna be 3 minutes of circles or ovals, whatever they are. So that's it for news. The PlayStation Showcase. Do you think we hear from Sony again, or do you think that's it for the year?
That's it for the year. That's
it. Yeah, I agree. Do you think Xbox has one more thing in them, or everyone's just waiting to Game Awards?
I think Xbox has something that might just be like a big Game Pass announcement. But I think they have something between now and Thanksgiving. So
yeah, and then Nintendo track record, September they have a direct, so we'll probably hear from Nintendo shortly. Even if it's just to spotlight.
We'll have a direct for Metroid Dread. There'll be an amiibo announced for Metroid Dread, and they'll probably like add some suits to Samus for Smash Brothers for Metroid.
Yeah. All right. Shall I tell people what has been delayed? Grand Theft Auto 5 Remastered has been delayed to March 22, or March 2022. And it was originally set for November 11th. And then Dying Light was delayed from December 7th to February 2022. Anything surprising about any of this?
No. December looked like a terrible time for Dying Light. So
yeah, February, March are kind of a terrible time for Dying Light. To be fair, February, March is ridiculous.
The GTA thing is kind of weird. Like, why is it taking so long? Like, to make a PS3 game work on PS5? Like,
yeah, especially that trailer didn't look like crazy,
right?
Different. I don't know what exactly they're doing, or if it's just working from home makes life difficult. For that stuff. But yeah, I'm not too surprised by any of this stuff. I wonder, they were giving away like Shark Card money until this released, right? So I wonder if they were going to have to extend how often.
Yeah, they were giving out something away for as long as you like, I don't remember what it was. PS Plus subscribers are getting something every month or every week or something.
Until the game comes out. Yeah, I wonder if they're going to have to extend that. They probably will because it costs them nothing to do that. But yeah, Dying Light, I don't know if this actually truly helps them. Because now they're competing with way more games. But they're also at the point where I wouldn't be surprised if it gets delayed one more time.
Yeah, so this came like through the pipeline today or whatever, like this week, and I was like, oh, okay. I kind of like keep forgetting it's coming. Similar to how you had forgotten Deathloop came out.
Yeah. I'm forgetting about Dying Light a lot.
Yeah. So what we're playing and watching. So I was actually on, like I said, I was on overnights. Typically, I don't work Friday night into Saturday morning, and I did to end the project because the holiday was earlier. So Saturday was spent trying to like get back on a regular clock. As well as a lot of college football was on. Like there were some big games like Ohio State, Oregon, Michigan was playing Washington. There was just some big games on. So I fell asleep in random chunks throughout the day on Saturday, but essentially watched college football all day Saturday. And then Sunday, was NFL opening day. So I watched the Lions play terrible and then look kind of decent and then still lose. And even like the games, like the Thursday night game, Tampa Bay and Dallas was really good. Some of the games on Sunday were good. The Monday night game was hilarious how it ended. And I'm just really happy to have NFL football back and college football back on the weekends, and to see whether I don't know how safe I feel about it, but just to see the fans in the stadiums, I realize how much I missed the atmosphere that's created in that environment. But yes, it is. There is that back of my mind that's concerned of like there's 113,000 people in U of M Stadium right now.
Yeah, and then you like go like, okay, what's the state's vaccine?
Yeah,
like
so,
percentage.
Like, and I don't want to necessarily think like that, but at the same time, I want to keep progressing in the right direction so that we can have things correctly again. My
time in the airport's going to be super interesting. I'm expecting me to have just a little bit of like I had a little bit of shock when I went to the Sox game, and it was a sold out Sox game. It was the first time I'd been in a crowd that big since lockdowns. I'm like wondering like what my state of mind is going to be at the airport when I see all those people doing stuff.
So, but then DDG bought Deathloop. So again, for anybody that might be like checking on me, I'm playing Deathloop on an alternate account. Yeah. So just so if you hear me talking about certain things and you want to like look at my trophies and say I didn't do this, I'm just telling you I'm playing on an alternate account. So I played like 2.5 hours today, this morning. It's interesting. It's my concern had always been the loop in the game, and I'm starting to understand that a little bit better. First complaint that I have about the game is the text. I feel like I'm so old when I say this. The text is too damn small.
Like, you can adjust that though.
Can you? Like the tutorial, not the subtitles, like the menu text.
Oh, the menu text. I'm not too sure about that.
Like when you're reading files or reading notes.
Yeah.
But and then just understanding the mechanics. Like I think I got through, I guess what you would call the first day. I did while I was playing through. So I'm trying to speak as vaguely as I can. I believe you can die twice.
Yes,
and you loop. Yeah, you loop back to a different portal point, I guess I'd call it. And so then the third time is you go back to your hub and you lose everything. Mm-hmm. So that's the rogue version of the game. And then I did find the battery. So I had a hard time finding a battery today. Okay. So, but then the first gun that I have already jams, which is annoying as hell. I hate the jam mechanic in a game.
Yeah. And then like, it just takes so long to unjam that gun.
Yeah.
That's why, when I played, I spent so long in that first area, just looking through every single like nook and cranny, hoping to find other guns.
Yeah, but essentially, for those of you that maybe are on the fence about it, this is like Groundhog Day the game.
Yeah.
Like I can totally like. They're already teasing at like you lose your stuff, but you retain the knowledge. And the player obviously retains the knowledge, so you like. Ultimately there's probably this perfect order that you're gonna have to do something in, but it's gonna take you multiple times and multiple playthroughs to figure out what that perfect order is. And that seems to be really cool and really interesting ways that they want to tell the story. The dialogue between Colt and Juliana is fantastic.
Yeah, the writing for this is so good. I'm not too far off from you. I'm like 90 minutes into the game. I was playing before here, but immediately the writing, the dialogue between those two characters is fantastic, and then just Colt talking to himself is entertaining as hell. I'm really
little things like if you go to pick up health, nope, I don't need that. I'm good.
Like. The messaging in the world, like I still can't grasp early on if those are his actual thoughts manifesting or if he's somehow leaving notes for himself, but I don't care either way. It's just really entertaining him answering like the words that are plastered on the screen. Did you get to the part where you entered, like, have you gotten the code yet? Yeah. Okay. That was cool. That scene was cool. Where he's being held. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, no, all that stuff is really good. Just the arguments he has with himself, and then all the stuff with Juliana.
And the game, like even like the couple people on stream were saying it when I was streaming, like it always looked good, and now that I see the world, like the world looks super fascinating and super fleshed out. I don't understand the enemy mechanic yet, in terms of the stealthiness of them, as well as they tend to blend in with the environment really, really well.
Yeah, that first area they
kind of bothers me. So
yeah, like it definitely has like that Dishonored stealth. And the sort of stealth that is kind of relying you to mark your targets, but it isn't like the most OP targeting system like we're used to in other games, where you can just like
tag somebody and watch them walk all the way to the bathroom.
Yeah, even if they're behind something, you can tag them, sort of thing. You need to have good visual on them and tag them. The only problem I've had with it so far is when there's multiple enemies together, basically you have to look at them and then hit down on the D-pad, but if they're too close to each other, it's really hard to figure out where the center point is, to where I was like marking and unmarking people when I was trying not to do that. But I do like the idea that like when you mark it, it shows you what type of weapon they have, so then you know how you want to approach them. Though I feel like early on, it is very much telling you this is a stealth game, which I hope it changes later on to be a little more viable to run and gun.
Yeah, I hope so too. It looked like all the stuff they were showing in the trailers and stuff like that looked like it was going to be, you could really like pick somebody up and throw them against a wall and stuff like that. And I kind of want to do that, and like now. Yeah. But so far, like it's reviewing super well, like super well. I'm very impressed with what I've played so far. I don't even know how long it is. I haven't even asked anybody or looked up how long it's going to take to beat. On the surface, I don't feel like it's going to be super long. I would say, if I had to guess, 12 to 18 hours.
I would hope so for a game like this, that it wouldn't be too bad. I looked it up. Some people are saying about 15 hours.
Okay.
So that's about where I would want a time game to be.
Right. So, and there's going to be you can already see it, but there's definitely going to the same area multiple times, which is fine, as long as there's new things to do or new ways to interact. The hacking mechanic is interesting. I'm getting a little bit of a Watch Dogs vibe from it as well. So that I'm impressed so far. Am I sitting there telling you should buy it right now? No, not yet. I need to play a little bit more. So
yeah, I'm enjoying it. Like I liked after I finished the first area, when it kicks you back to the menu to be like, all right, let's look at all the stuff you found. Let's see if there's any upgrades you can do to your gun or do to your character. I like that it was just like, hey, if you go back to Updam, you didn't really explore your apartment enough. Like it will tell you like different objectives to go back to other areas. So I like that they're already early on being like, if you go back to Updam, you can still look around and find information. Because I'll tell you right now, I'm turning the invasion process off. I'm not messing with other people messing with me. I will mess with other people, but after I beat this game. But I don't see myself turning that functionality on. It's off by default your first like 2 or 3 areas, I believe, and then it will prompt you for that. But I want to see what it's like to play as Juliana, because that seems like it would be really fun. But I haven't seen exactly how she fits into the game early on. At least in the first area, she's not really that big of a deal outside of the dialogue. But I'm impressed with it. Like it plays really well. Like the gun plays fun. I love the distraction mechanic because you have the what is it, like the hacking thing, and then you can just pick up objects, different things to distract people. Like there's alarm clocks everywhere in this game for you to use. And I thought I was kind of tired of like text being splashed in the world.
They're doing it really well.
It's really
and they're definitely
well
not taking themselves too seriously. You'll run into some areas where they're like, "No, dummy, don't go that way."
I'm really impressed in the early going. Like I'm excited to start playing it again after we're done recording.
Yeah. I messed around with some Destiny stuff. They made a, obviously like it's still early in the season, like week 3, week 4, whatever it is. So there's still some cool story bits that are going on, some things that they're teasing that are leading up to Witch Queen. And they did a whole revamp to Trials of Osiris, the PvP mode, made it super rewarding, super worth your time. So just another step in the right direction of I think they said they had the most popular players online for Trials of Osiris since Destiny 1. Which is super interesting, especially since this is one that was put behind a paywall. You had to own the most recent expansions to be able to play Trials, which is something that wasn't before. It was available as a free-to-play option. But they had so much cheating problems and account recovery issues going on. So, but yeah, this week will be more Deathloop, and then Kenya comes out next week.
Yeah, September 21st, I believe.
Yeah, so hopefully I can chug through Deathloop a little bit. Not chug through, but get through Deathloop and enjoy it and put mark another game on the box that I beat in 2021. But I'm definitely, usually I can sometimes be kind of put off by games within the first hour or so, and I'm definitely not with Deathloop at all. So
yeah, for me it's honestly was just the little bit of Deathloop that I played. Just dabbled a little bit, still kind of trying to figure out what my next game to play is. Luckily, Deathloop came along, because other than that, I've just been watching random shows. I did finish season 1 of Ted Lasso. Enjoyed that, and then What We Do in the Shadows came back, so I'm watching that, and it's just kind of just been falling down that YouTube rabbit hole. As I mentioned last week, I was just waiting for new games to come out, which was Deathloop. And then after that, Kenna, and then every week I think there's games coming out. I wanted to pick up Life is Strange, but I think I might wait for it to be on sale. Just because I kind of want to buy 2 copies. One for Xbox and one for PlayStation, so Sarah can play it, and then I can play it, and we can compare our stories, because that's how we played the first Life is Strange. And because we live together, it's not like we can... I guess I could just go in the other room while she's playing, and then we can talk about the episode after, but it would just be easier if we just are playing it simultaneously, and then compare notes afterwards. So definitely want to pick up Life is Strange sooner rather than later, but I'll probably wait for a sale. But that's it for me. Pretty basic week for me.
All right, so questions and comments for the show, you can send those to us using hashtag AskDigitalDays. There's actually a channel within our Discord that is set up for that as well, and a bunch of people use that today. So Fumbles writes, with week 1 in the books, how do you feel about the NFL season? It's week 1, and it's hard to tell. Green Bay got its ass kicked, but Stafford and the Rams looked really good, and the Ravens lost to the Raiders. There's a bunch of weird stuff going on, but it's week 1. So I'm just happy that football's back, and I lost to my fantasy team too, so not too much of a great start. The Lions will win 4 games at the most this year, so it's gonna be a rough year. So I don't know.
I have NFL muted on Twitter. I have football muted on Twitter. I have Trubisky muted on Twitter. I have Bears muted on Twitter. I'm not a football guy, but I always pick it up through osmosis, at work, to where I come week 3, I'm going to know way too damn much about the Chicago Bears, and I'm going to hate it. Justin Fields scored a touchdown, and Andy Dalton's still the starter. I don't know.
Yeah. So, yeah. And I guess the question for you from him as well, has there ever been a more eventful 4-week stretch in wrestling?
I don't think so. What's happening in wrestling right now is pretty crazy, and it continues tonight as they reboot NXT. But if you're a wrestling fan, this has been the best month of wrestling of recent memory. I think that this is going to be interesting. I mean, I think AEW might potentially overtake WWE in ratings, even though they're on separate days. That's still important. So I think once that happens, we're going to see panic mode from WWE, and WWE, with their back against the wall, produce amazing content. So I'm hoping they get their ass kicked a little bit more and change things up.
All right. And then I can't say his name. Can you say his name? I'm gonna butcher it.
No, Mujtaba 19.
I think it's Hussein, isn't it?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
You go read the question.
Since Sony bought Crunchyroll and them already owning Funimation, can you see in the future them adding those to PS Plus subscriptions and making anyone owning a PS Plus a Prime subscriber to those anime streaming apps? And do you see Sony/PlayStation trying to buy similar services in the future?
I think I could see discounts for Plus members.
Yeah, I think both console manufacturers in general are scared off of like grouping their console stuff as a television thing because of the Xbox TV like thing that was going on for a little while with Xbox One. I think that in terms of, because immediately the thing that comes to mind from my standpoint is those would be two features that would be added to PS Plus, which could potentially be great, but I would have no desire for. So I'd be like, well, can I just buy the gaming version of PS Plus and not the PS Plus with the anime stuff? Like, I think it just ends up like a recipe for disaster. Like, Game Pass does like the 30-day trials, and I think PS Plus did 30-day trials. Like, that stuff's cool, like as a way for you to try something out to figure out if you like it or don't like it. But for it to be inherently bundled in a gaming subscription, I would hate.
I feel like Dave watching anime would be like whatever Hank Hill's reaction.
I've watched Avatar. My friends tell me that counts.
Nah, not really.
Avatar, the Last Airbender, not Avatar the movie.
No, I know. That doesn't really count. That's not actual anime. It's inspired, but not quite.
I watched Voltron back in like the 80s. That was anime.
Technically, yeah, I guess so. Yeah, it's not modern, but yeah. No, I think this is one of the things where if they were to add Funimation and Crunchyroll to PS Plus, exactly what you said would happen. Either the price would increase and then people would be upset that the price increased, or people would be like, can I get like a cheaper version of Plus that doesn't include this anime? Mm-hmm. Because anime, like, it's super popular, but it's not mainstream enough that everyone would be happy to have anime added to their Plus or PlayStation Plus. And also, Funimation and Crunchyroll make a shit ton of money, so they don't want to lose any bit of that money by folding it into Plus, because then he would lose subscribers who are only subscribed to Funimation and Crunchyroll by folding it to Plus, because then you would cancel your Crunchyroll and Funimation if you have Plus, because then you're just like, I'm going to get the one that has it all. So they probably wouldn't do that, but I can see them doing stuff that we've seen, sorry I mentioned Game Pass, do, where it's like, there was a while where Game Pass subscribers got Disney Plus for 3 months free, even though there's no realistic partnership between Disney and Xbox, or like some crossover there. So I can totally see Plus people getting a free trial for Funimation, Crunchyroll, or whatever the combined force will be, or giving them like, hey, if you're a Plus subscriber, here's 30% off your subscriptions for life as long as you're a Plus member. That's as far as I can see it go.
Yeah, agreed. So, all right, spotlights. So again, just if you haven't checked out our Far Cry 6 hands-on impressions, that's up there. That's on YouTube as well as on the audio feed. Michael's interview for Earth Night is up there as well. Those are as bonus episodes with their own special cover art, so you can definitely tell they're different from the numbered episode. If you haven't listened to those, please check those out. Feedback is always appreciated on that. You can send us that on Facebook and Twitter, all those things. Email podcast@digitaldaysgaming.com. So if you, or even suggestions of things you would want us to change or evolve, you can follow us on the socials. The main Twitter account is @DigitalDaysPod. Michael's is @TheFirstMJC. Mine is @GoodDaveHunt. You can join our Facebook group. You just have to send a request to join, and then one of us or our admins will see it. Discord server links are in the description. Facebook group links in the description. Patreon.com/DigitalDaysGaming, where you can check out our tiers there, as well as other links are in the show notes. Teesprings is there. Direct link to PayPal if you want to choose to support us directly that way. As again, just checking your Twitch subscriptions and using September helps with that as well. I don't think I have anything else. Michael, you got anything?
Nope. Just looking forward to hopping on Deathloop and Kenna and the next several weeks of video game releases.
For me, it's like Deathloop, Kenna, Far Cry, And that's a month. That's a month or more, if not more. So, all right. I hope everyone has a great week. Keep moving forward.
Don't be a dick. See ya.